Too, SJWs, woke culture, and all this shit that's been going on for the last 2 years. I thought I'd put it all in perspective. I don't know if the term lumbersexual is a Torontonian term or if they exist everywhere. They got a perfect beard, and they got tattoos, and they dress like a lumberjack. They're going for the rugged look, although I don't think they've ever cut a tree down, and they probably work like in an office or at a bank. I picture that's what woke males look like. These guys that call themselves feminists, and they go on about all these political bullshit, and they love The Last Jedi. I had a friend over 2 days ago. She's a very pretty 34-year-old, intelligent, fun. And we brought up Captain Marvel. She's like, did you see Captain Marvel? And she goes, yeah. She goes, it was awful. It was so boring. She's like, I like Brie Larson, but I don't like, that movie was awful. And I'm like, haven't you seen her in interviews? And I showed her the clips of her saying all those stupid things about white men. And my friend was shocked. And I'm just identifying that, like, she is a female. She hated the movie. She hated Captain Marvel. She doesn't watch YouTube. So it was nice seeing fresh eyes, hearing from a fresh mouth on the subject, and hearing that, yeah, Captain Marvel did suck. It wasn't just that if you're a white man, you're going to hate it because you hate women. Now, the Me Too movement, I think, was a great movement for what it was when it happened. But I think it's led to a lot of bad ideas about that, that are exemplified or by Captain Marvel and Terminator Dark Fate. And all these, it's interesting seeing these new words crop up, like woke, SJW. That was like last year. Now we got woke. Now we got woke just started coming along this year, I think. I don't think it existed until then. And then came along NPCs. What else? Oh, last year it was soy, because everything's becoming soy. And then came the term cancel culture. And then I guess it all culminated with the last Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker. That's where it was just like underlined, I suppose, that all this bullshit is coming to an end. All this, I guess forced diversities, agendas, agenda-driven movies. Star Wars was like the sacrificial lamb for all of this woke culture, I think. They are the casualty. Star Wars died because of it. And it feels dumb to say that, white men are being, prejudiced against. But it's becoming actually more and more true. When people would say, "Oh, well, why is there a black entertainment channel? Why don't we have a white entertainment channel?" And the answer is, of course, because every channel is a white channel, or Black History Month. Why don't we have a White History Month? Because every month is white history. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So it does seem stupid to say white men are being discriminated against, because white men have always had the power. And maybe it is time for them to not have power. I don't know. But that doesn't mean white men are not being discriminated against. They are. Maybe they deserve it. But whether or not they deserve it is irrelevant. What matters is they're not going to like it. They're not going to come to your movies. And I used to go to bars all the time. I used to talk to women, try to meet women. But I don't try anymore. It's not worth it. It's dangerous. You could make some guys get jealous when you're talking to an attractive girl, so they can want to get in a fight with you. I've had that happen a lot of times, where I almost got my ass kicked because of the girl I was with. Or they'll just get mad at you or say you're creepy and embarrass you, make you feel like shit because, you know, you're creepy, you're old, or whatever the hell it is. You're ugly. So I don't go out anymore. I don't try to talk to women anymore. And I just wonder, like, this is gonna... I feel sorry for the younger generation because women are ashamed to look beautiful because that means that they're feeling... You know, so it's not okay to be beautiful. It's not okay to be ugly. You can't... It's got to be a very confusing... And you know what else? What occurred to me just now is that this culture, this repressed culture... Well, I'm no psychiatrist, but a culture that's extremely repressed and whatnot like this, where you're never allowed to say what's on your mind because you're afraid of being called something. It's gonna... I mean, I could picture this causing a lot of serial killers and shit. Because when you're... You know, like, I can just picture these guys. There'd be these guys that are never... They can never get laid. They can never meet girls. They're terrified. And then it all pents up. And then they explode in some deviant way. Right? You know, I remember I was dating some girl and I was saying... Look, if you want me to be powerful in bed, you have to let me be powerful throughout the day as well, right? Like, you can't expect me to be dominant in bed if you've made me submissive during the day. If that looks ridiculous. Like, oh, hi, honey, can I carry your groceries? Can I do this for you? Can I do... And then in the bedroom, all right, bitch. You know, it would look ridiculous. It would feel wrong, and it's... I mean, it makes for a shitty sex life if you... feel beneath everybody and you're a guy, you know. In an interesting, you see, there's things that are accepted in the public sphere, but they're not accepted in the private sphere, and that's a good distinction to make. And an interesting sphere would be the family sphere. So, like, let's say Christmas dinner with your whole family, your grandparents. It's bound to happen where, like, an elderly grandparent might say something racist. Chinese are terrible drivers or something. Jewish people are cheap or something. And are you supposed to stand up and argue with them and tell them that it's wrong? Like, that would make for a very uncomfortable, awkward, family occasion. You know, these are occasions, family occasions, people are drinking wine. So-and-so occasionally gets too drunk. The feelings can come out and stuff. And if you've got, start talking about politics, Trump. Okay, I hate Trump. I'm not interested. I don't really care about arguing about it. But I've had to listen to people say things that I really don't agree with, that I found offensive. But it's just, you have to sometimes tolerate. You have to listen to this shit. And the thing is, when I've got a family member who says something like Chinese are terrible drivers, they're usually not really racist people. Like, they're very loving. If they ever met a Chinese person, they wouldn't say, you're a terrible driver. They'd actually hug them and treat them like they're wonderful. Now, is that justifying racism? No, but I mean, racism is always going to exist. Somebody's always going to say something out of line. And I'm not saying it should be tolerated, but sometimes it has to be. If I'm dating a girl, I'm going to be respectful to her father no matter what he says. I'm not going to argue with him, for example. You know, and I got to wonder about all these social justice warriors, or I call them moral authorities. You got to wonder what goes on at their family dinner, you know? Because they're so outspoken about how perfect they are. But you wonder, like, remember how outspoken Bill Cosby was? How he was such a moral authority? And look what he was doing behind closed doors. And I just heard about apparently that lesbian kissing scene that happened in Rise of Skywalker. They deleted that scene for Singapore or something, because Singapore audiences don't like that. And it's like, there you go. It's just such an example of, like, when it comes down to it, Disney doesn't give a shit. Of course they don't give a shit about, equality. Of course not. It's a company. And like Brie Larson, okay, if she really cared about diversity and gender equality, she would be reading books. She would be getting a PhD on the subject of gender studies and all of that. Instead, what does she do? She finds one. Remember, she found that statistic about movie critics, how many white movie critics there are, and she's like, 40% of them are white males. So you pull out one statistic, and all of a sudden you're an expert on polling critics. You don't just see that, but that's what she is. She's like a dilettante. She finds one little statistic, and then she acts like she's Albert Einstein, like a statistician. And again, it's like these people that get a yellow belt in karate and then lecture everybody who's doesn't know anything about karate. They act like they're an expert. And while you are an expert compared to someone who doesn't know anything about karate, but when you meet a black belt, you're going to look like you're a fucking fool. And I think a few years ago, 10 years ago, Kanye West was playing the race card all the time, right? And that's fine. So now Brie Larson wants to play the gender card all the time. Or not now. She did. I don't know. Whatever. But you know that the problem with that is that you're going to play all the cards. So let's say Kanye West hypothetically got famous by using all the race cards. Well, that's good for you, Kanye, but it's not good for people who actually need those race cards when there actually is a race crime going on. That's great, Brie Larson, that you sounded intelligent and got a lot of publicity by playing the gender card all the time. But now there's not going to be any gender cards left for the people that need them. Then there's not an infinite amount. It's like a case of the boy who cried wolf. Part of this problem is actors as gods. Actors as, there was a time when artists were gods. Like Beethoven, classical music during that time. Musicians were gods. Artists, painters were gods at a certain point. I use gods loosely. Worshipped, look up to, god figures. Icons, idols. There was a time when kings and queens were the ones. There was a time when the church was. So right now, and this is the only time in history, actors are the gods. And the problem with that is that they're not they spend their lives lying, and they're not necessarily educated. They're not smart. Not that artists are always smart, but at least they have a craft. And I guess acting is a craft of sorts, but it's not a great craft. I think artists should be worshipped as gods rather than if anybody's going to be, it should be them. But so now we get people like Brie Larson or Mark Wahlberg or Bruce Willis, who actually believe that they're the characters they play. They think they're superheroes, and so that's why they shout their mouth off at everybody, and they think they're the voice of like Bill Cosby, the voice of their generation, and they're not, and they shouldn't be viewed as such. And the thing is, most of us don't have such a sounding board, like we don't reach millions of people. So, I think that when your voice isn't very loud, you shouldn't be listening to people who have loud voices. And maybe, if you want to deal with diversity or gender, read a book on it, or treat your neighbor nicely. Or try not to say racist things at dinner. And every time in the past that I've had a racist or chauvinistic, misogynistic view, when somebody calmly explained it, kindly, as a not as an argument, but as a conversation, and showed me why it's a erroneous thought to have, I would stop thinking it. And I don't think racists want to be racists. Obviously the most extreme ones do, but a lot of them are just confused. They don't know. They just haven't been informed. Right? If you grew up in a ghetto, you'd probably around crack dealers. You'd probably be dealing crack too. So don't judge a crack dealer necessarily. There's nobody, or people in jail, they were never given a chance. They can't advocate for themselves, right? They don't have the tools. So when you say something like, oh, those kinds of people are always in jail, because they're bad. It's like, no, they never got a chance. So when you explain that to somebody, they'll shut up right away about it. Nobody wants to be, full of shit or hateful, I don't think. Whereas on the other hand, with somebody like Brie Larson, she makes me want to say misogynistic things just to defy her. And I think that's what she wants, right? It drums up controversy and whatnot. But she's not trying to solve the problem of gender inequality. She's just using this for her fucking ego. People don't like being talked down to. So what's my overall point? My overall point, I think, is that the current young generation is totally fucked. They all need therapists, and they're all having anxiety because of an overstimulated world. Movies being thrown at them and shoved at them with agendas. I think the movie industry is going through a major change, and I think big things are going to be changing in the next 10 years for the better. And until then, just lock yourself at home and don't go out for anything. Don't go to see any movies or listen to any music. If you buy food, read the ingredients, because there might be like an agenda in there somewhere. It's very possible. They're going to start putting it in our food. If you like gays, click like. If you like blacks, comment. If you like women, click notification bell. If you like gay women, subscribe. And if you like gay black women, Patreon, human warnings.